Well, Julie, we are back with another, edition of our Gate River Run preview. We are 3 weeks away from the big day, and you know this race very, very well. You've run it so many times, and I know it's the 48th annual. Just for you, as the expert runner around here, what does this Gate River Run mean just for the Jacksonville community?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's our largest race that we have in town every year. And a lot of people don't know this, but it is a USA Track and Field National Championship. So this is the national championship race for the 15K distance. And so what that means is that professional athletes will be coming into town several days prior, warming up on the course, and they'll be competing for pretty substantial prize money with the potential for bonuses. And we can talk a little bit more about what that means too on the day. So they'll be starting for the women a 6-minute head start over the elite men, and then the rest of the field. So I think that's why a lot of people don't know that, Alessandra, is just that they don't get to see what that heat looks like at the start line. But I always say what's really cool and unique about this race specifically is in Jacksonville, you get to share your home course with these elite runners. There will be Olympians in the field. We don't have the fully announced elite field yet, but we will have that by the next week. And but there will be Olympians in the mix. And this is kind of a cool year too, because it's a post-Olympic year. And so what that means is last year that elite field was just a little bit diminished, mostly because people had their sights set on Paris or trying to make that team because those trials were in July and a little bit close to that March race. So this year I expect it to be full of really hot elite field.
So this is kind of like for those elite runners, this is kind of like bragging rights if they win this. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's bragging rights. And, we mentioned people starting out running their first 15K the last time. You might think as a beginning runner that you don't have something in common with one of these elite runners, that this is their job. They're paid full time to do this. But for some of them, this is their first 15K as well. They come into Jacksonville and maybe they're a star at the 5K distance. Maybe they're a half or a marathoner on the roads and they're dropping down. But the 10K and the 15K just in general aren't run a lot in the US. And so they don't have a ton of opportunities to race this distance. And it's not, 15K is not offered on the track either. So 10K is as high as that goes. So for a lot of people, they're going to be lining up even on that elite start line with a lot of money on the line, in the same shoes as you, literally never having run the course before and never having run that distance before.
I've never run the course before. Last year was my first Gate River Run covering it. This year I will be taking over the Julie Cam and running the race for us at News for Jax. While you are anchoring with Jamal at the start finish line, and I know Justin Barney will be at the top of the Heart Bridge. You ran this race so many times. Is this kind of sentimental since you call Jacksonville home?
It is. Yeah. This was always my favorite race of the year. And I think for me, it's, I just talked about everybody has different distances that they really like if you've been running for a long time. And I've been running not quite as long as this race has been around, but pretty close. But I used to put this race on my training calendar, my racing calendar every year. And I think one reason that I always did so well is because I do love it so much. And so I kind of always had my training primed and ready to peak for this race. So I was fortunate to be able to win the First Coast Cup, which is top local Jacksonville female, 5 times, not 5 consecutive times, but 5 times throughout my years of racing it. And several years I was able to line up in that elite field that I mentioned. And so to me personally, it was just amazing in my hometown to be able to line up with some of my running heroes. And maybe I only saw them for the first minute when that cannon fired and not again after that. But again, I think there's just really something special to sharing this course in your hometown. I always say it's a running preview of the best that our city has to offer, with a really great gathering at the end with both elites and beginners alike.
Yeah, it's so crazy because when we were going live at the start of the Gate River Run last year, when the elites went off, the golf carts with some of our photographers on the back of it, it like sped away. And I was like, aren't they going like the speed limit basically? Like these elite runners, they run really fast.
Really fast. So, I think we mentioned that there are some bonuses as well. And so what that looks like is, so there's the Equalizer challenge. And so that's where actually it's only a 5-minute head start now. It used to be a 6-minute head start, but the women's times have gotten so fast. It's insane what's going on in American distance running in general, in both men and women right now. But on the women's side of the house, just records are just going down. I would expect, this record, it's always going to depend on the weather, but this record, particularly for the women, has stood for a really long time on this course. It's a solid record. So there will be some athletes going for that. And there are bonuses for getting records. There are bonuses for breaking 5 minutes in the mile, on the final mile, the downhill mile that I mentioned, mostly downhill mile. And then there's that Equalizer challenge. So where the women get a 5-minute head start over the men, and the first person across the finish line gets another $5,000 bonus in addition to their race winning. So it always makes it really fun because the final picture that you'll see coming down the Green Monster are usually the top guy and the top girl, it's in some sort of order, kind of racing each other to the finish line. And that's really fun to watch.
Well, my bonus is if I actually finish it in one breath.
You're going
That's
to get a
my
bonus no
bonus.
matter what. Now, I'll tell you what, Alessandra, you better be doing a little strength training because that camera pack is like an extra 5 pounds.
I know.
You need-
I was telling Juwan, everyone, because it's a full production. Like there's probably 20 people to put on, or even more to put on this event, broadcasting wise. And I told them we've been planning for a couple months now, and I said I need that GoPro because I heard it's really heavy, and I'm not strong like Julie. I'm like they always say during the Olympics they want like a normal person just see what it's like compared to an elite. That's me compared to you. Everyone's getting like just to see what a regular person running the race is going to look like. I'll be dying, I bet, by the
Well,
end of
I think you're gonna love it. And I should mention too that this so I said all of those years, that I ran it trying to go for as fast as possible. Last year running with the Julie Cam, I tried to do a combination of running somewhat fast, but also enjoying the course and seeing what I could see that might be interesting for people to see what a runner's eye view looked like of that race. But I think something you're really you don't have anything to compare it to since you haven't run it before. But one thing I noticed running with the camera last year is people got really excited. Like this is already a course that's lined pretty well with a lot of fans, especially on a nice day. There are neighborhood parties, just people get really excited, even if they're not running the race, to come out and support it. So what you're going to notice having the camera is people get really hyped because they see you coming and they're waving to the camera. They want to be on the news. They might do something crazy. So you don't know what you're going to see, but I think that you're going to get a lot of energy. Just like first time runners out there, the one thing that you're missing in training, besides competition and people to run with and music and bands during certain miles, are people cheering for you. And you'd be amazed at how much extra energy you can get from that.
I am super excited as I continue to train. But as we wrap up, Julie, of course, you are one of the best, in my opinion, coaches in this area. If someone would like to get in contact with you to learn more, how would they do that? What's your social media?
Sure. On social media, on Instagram, I'm Coach Stackhouse. And then my website is Get Stacked Now, or Stackhouse Fitness. And if you're a beginner, if you're an expert, please reach out, share a running story, or if you have a question, I'd love to help you. And I hope that you get excited about this race as much as I do.
I am, like I said, I can't say it enough. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see you and Jamal at the end at the on the desk. I can't wait to I know I'll be excited to come sit down with you guys. But I can't believe we're 3 weeks away. Next week we will of course preview even more of the Gate River Run, talk about the nutrition as we're 2 weeks out, and of course the seating times. I know we talked about the elites. this week. But next week, for everyone else that needs to pick their seed time, we'll delve more into how to do that if you don't know how to do that, but as well as just getting Julia your tips on which seed time is best for any one runner.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. See you guys
Okay,
next week.
there you go. Thank you. And then make sure you tune in right here on News for Jacks for another episode next week.